Hello, everybody. I want to apologize for the lack of updates. I'm working on some projects outside of the YouTube channel that has more of my attention than what I'm doing here. Though I would be remiss if I simply left the channel, especially on Valentine's Day, with the last one of these Real Talk videos that I did. I'm going to be a little bit forward and say that the last one ended on a bit of a depressing note. You know, with me simply saying you may not be ready for a relationship, and that's an easy enough thing to simply say. It's another thing entirely to start showing people where they might be able to improve. I'm not going to just flat out say that people are wrong, though I do believe a lot of folks can be. But I am going to say that there are some things that I can see very easily that women are and are not influenced by. And that brings us to today's topic that I hope to talk about, which would be the idea of self-hatred versus humility. I knew a couple of people in a couple of the jobs that I've worked at that single, and I don't know why, and in a lot of cases, I can see that they talk down to themselves all the time. They, use self-deprecating humor and think that that is a means to keep them humble, when in reality that sort of feeds into this idea of hating oneself and mistaking it for humility. When in reality, it sort of removes the idea of someone else looking in at you and seeing you for who you are. A lot of people aren't exactly happy with who they are. I know I'm not. I struggle with self-hatred still to this day. I have to fight myself to keep from saying under my breath, I hate myself. And it's a struggle, especially because I have trained myself to not be happy with who I am. But that in and of itself takes a level of arrogance that you can visualize what other people see in you. And then it turns you into more of a... I'd say it turns you uglier in the eyes of other people. Most women do not care for self-hatred. For several reasons. For one, it means that you're not really providing anything other than someone that has to be fixed, when in reality that is a job that is up to the individual. And on another, that hatred can be turned outward very easily. I've seen some people do that frequently. It's not a pretty sight, and to be frank, that is not a good look on anyone. I don't think most people would want to go into a relationship with the expectation that they have to fix someone. A relationship is something that should be used to enrich your life, to provide an aspect to it, and to understand that ultimately, even though you are in a relationship, you are still responsible for your own happiness. And it's easy to blame others, when you're alone, for your own unhappiness, but that self-hatred can persist even in the middle of a relationship. It's not an automatic happiness pump. And it's definitely not humility. If you want someone to get into the door, you do have to have a little bit of self-confidence in yourself. But I'm going to put this in now, is that people do mistake that self-hatred for humility, calling yourself fat, calling yourself ugly, and it's like, in many cases, a lot of these folks just need to clean themselves up a little bit, just take showers a little bit more, maybe spray on a little cologne in the morning, maybe trim up your beard a little bit, at least shave around your neck and make it look nice. You'd be surprised, getting some actually fitting clothing and trimming your beard up, what you can look like. And women can have different standards. Not every woman is looking for a 6-foot-tall Chad. Not every woman is looking for someone who's ripped and ready to go at a moment's notice, or needs a manly man, thick beard, ready to chop down a tree with a hatchet. Like, that's an idealized version of someone that follows a lot of fiction. And when you're talking about reality versus fiction, The reality is, most people aren't going to fall into that, and there is no point in hating yourself for not being that. You can take the time to work towards that image of yourself, but it takes work, and even if you achieve that, it does not stop you from hating yourself. Which leads me to understanding what humility is. Humility, in some ways, I would say, is the opposite of self-hatred, because it is not the assumption that you know everything about you that needs to be fixed. In many cases, those are blind spots, and being in a relationship can highlight that. Humility is the idea that you can still be good at something and allowing others to flourish with you around them. As an example, I'll use gaming as an example. You're playing we'll say a casual game. It doesn't have to be competitive. I understand the drive to want to be better in a competitive sphere. But let's say you're playing in a team deathmatch in Halo or something akin to that. And you know that you can easily shit stomp the other team. But the other team also has, let's say, a lot of new players or kids or just people that are there to play the game and not have to worry about being, slaughtered by the enemy team. Holding back and letting others enjoy themselves is an excellent idea of what humility is like. When you learn to ease back and just let others play the game, you know you can do well. I'm certain many of you watching this are fantastic. But those people can enjoy themselves without having to worry about being shot in the face and teabagged. And that's also another thing. A lot of people who hate themselves love the things that they're good at. And I know that feeling. I struggle with that periodically myself. And it draws attention to people when they can recognize your skill without being dominated by it. Recognize your intelligence without dominating a conversation. Because it is more enriching to be able to understand and to interact with people on a level that allows them to interact with you. You are not untouchable. I am not untouchable. Nobody on this earth is truly untouchable in one way or another. There's always going to be someone better than you. And there are plenty of people who are worse. And if you want to see improvement around you, you should be willing to be around the people that you would consider lesser than you. That is humility. No amount of skill is going to cover up the fact that you are unhappy. No amount of skill is going to cover up the fact that you don't like yourself. And in spite of having everything in the world going for you, you can still be unfulfilled and you can still be miserable. And that's not healthy. That, in and of itself, is the source of self-hatred, is typically wanting more. You can be content with who you are, and you can also try to improve yourself. The two things are not necessarily devoid of each other. Or opposite, I suppose I would use the term as. You are ultimately responsible for your own fulfillment and your own happiness. And that's hard to see. I know that's hard to see. I struggled with getting into a relationship for a very long time. And it's easy for that hatred to boil inside of you. After I got into a relationship, I had no reason to blame others for my own unhappiness at that point, because at that point, it was me that I realized I hated. You can make friends with people. In fact, being humble allows you. Holding back allows you to make friends. Finding someone that you can talk to and be weak around. That allows you to be open to others. And at the core of getting into an actual relationship with someone, you first have to actually get into a relationship. Not everyone you meet is going to want to immediately fawn over you and fall at your feet and worship you and get ready to love you. Relationships don't work like that. And it makes it a lot more difficult for people to find you attractive when you don't even find yourself attractive. Now, there is such a thing as overconfidence. A lot of people run into that. But at the core of things, a little confidence in yourself, at the very least. And knowing when to hold back on others. You might be surprised with how much people actually find you attractive for that. Anyway, I hope that this video is a little more uplifting than the last one. I hope to upload more of these, and the comments will probably still be off at the end of this video, just because I see a lot of the same comments going on over and over about people insulting each other, and I don't want to make this channel sort of a zone where that's permitted. I see all the same insults, I see all the same mudslinging, and it's not very productive. So, this is just me getting my thoughts out, and if you listen, you listen. If you don't, that is your prerogative. But either way, I hope you have a good day. And happy Valentine's Day. Even if you're alone, at the very least, you can still love yourself. Have a good one.